Welcome, everyone, to Game Over Calgary. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for stopping by today. Coming up, we're going to be looking at the first couple of games in the Flames preseason, couple standouts, couple things we're maybe keeping an eye on that aren't so great, and look at kind of where everyone sits after a couple of games. As always, this is going to be your home for Calgary Flames post-game content throughout the season. Make sure you subscribe here on Game Over Calgary on the YouTube channel. We gotta get those subscription numbers up so we can go live when this thing launches in October. We'll get to some of the other stuff as we kind of go along. But to begin, I'm very, very choked up about it, apparently. To begin, I do firstly want to say I did not see the game that was out in Edmonton. I wasn't subscribing to the Oilers thing, and by the time I was finished my notes and all of that, a 10-minute highlight video seemed insurmountable to me. So apologies that I have not checked that one out. Did see some of a few of the clips anyway on social media, but I think we cannot do an early standouts of the preseason for the Calgary Flames without talking about Matt Coronado, as Coronado has been phenomenal so far this preseason. And again, the caveat on all of these things: yes, it's the preseason. Yes, it's really early in the preseason. And no, we shouldn't read too much into these things. But, I mean, A, content's content, right? But B, I do think that they're, like, it's still, for a few of these guys, and a few of the guys we're going to talk about today, these are important games because you are trying to make this team. And in Coronado's case, talked about it on the radio. It's been written about, talked about on social media. There aren't a whole lot of obvious spots for Matt Coronado to start the season on the National Hockey League roster. And it's weird to have that discussion about the Flames because we are all kind of under the understanding this team isn't going to be all that great, right? Like, we're not looking at this like, okay, well, a couple things break right, this team can make the playoffs. It's like, yeah, if they fold a couple franchises, the Flames might be able to make it into the postseason this year. That this is not the year that we are thinking playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. And so that is to say that and then be like, okay, but also there's no room for a former first-round pick who is just lighting the world on fire offensively. Like, those two thoughts feel like they kind of go against each other. But on the right side specifically, and on the wing just generally, this team is in a decent spot right now. Like, you look, three guys on that right side are locked in right now. Mantha's not going anywhere. Coleman's not going anywhere. Kuzmenko, for now, isn't going anywhere. Two of those probably won't finish the year with the Flames, if we're being honest with ourselves. But for now, they're here. And so there is a difficult path for Coronado to get to this point. Now, if he is undeniable, they'll find a way. They will make it work. But you also, like, I know I only listed three and you need four. You're not putting Mantha or Coleman in Mantha or Kuzmenko in a fourth line role. And I don't think you're doing that with Coleman either. So, and you also aren't doing it with Coronado because that's not his game. And I don't think he gains anything from doing that. The thing that I like that he is doing right now is that the goals that he is scoring, or at least some of the goals he's scoring, aren't just with that amazing shot that he has, right? It's not just he walks in and on some poor AHL goalie or a future e-bug, he is sniping it top shelf. He is going to dirty areas and he is getting some of those goals as well. He takes a tripping penalty when he's battling for it, but that's just one. He went for the puck and he missed. Like, that's gonna happen. You don't love an offensive zone penalty, but you still, I didn't mind that he was in there. He's getting his nose dirty and he is battling. Those are the types of goals that I think are going to really impress people. We know the shot is there. We know the offensive instincts are there. Need to see the skating, and I think he's been fine so far in the preseason. I don't think he is ever going to be a real burner, but you do need that to kind of step up a little bit. But you do like that he is going to the front of the net and capitalizing on those. I will also say he did this last year. Right? Like, he was the best player in the preseason a year ago and then kind of played himself off of the NHL roster. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen again this year. It is better when you are playing in these games to look good than not. So good on him for looking good. But I do think that there is a little bit that maybe needs to be just kind of remembered when we are talking about this kid and looking at what the looking at just where he might fit in on the NHL roster, the other part of it too that you really like, the playmaking is there. The play of the preseason is already locked in. It's that backhand saucer pass across to Poirier for the one-timer. And I don't know if you're getting away with that one in November when everyone is just kind of sharp, but that's also recognizing the situation you're in and firing a pass across there, seeing an opening, and taking advantage of it. That was just a high-level play from Matt Coronato, and one that I think I'm very impressed by. And just the overall game so far, he has been very good, and I think is going to make life a little bit interesting on Coach Heska and everyone. Another player who showed up big time. Again, we're looking... we're not breaking any news on this one. It's Connor Zary. He has showed up in a big time way. And again, it's not dipsy duel around or whatever. It is go to the front of the net, capitalize on your opportunities. Again, with this Flames team, don't think they're going to be very good. Goals are going to be difficult to come by at various different times. I don't hate the forward group, but this is going to be a team that is going to have to work to score goals. And he is getting those work to score goals, and that is something you really like to see from him. I do like that right away there seems to be a chemistry with Michael Backlund. Not that he is a difficult guy to have chemistry with, but they seem to have clicked in their first showing together, and that has looked very impressive. And the thing that really impresses me about Zary always has been his vision on the ice. He sees everything at such a high level, and he has a very good sense of where everyone's supposed to be, where they are, and he has very good touch to get the puck to those guys. And again, you go in, you get those dirty area goals, that's going to kind of get people talking on the Calgary Flames. The one thing that he was kind of lacking last year was consistency to his game. If he can kind of round that out and be a consistent, everyday, you just plug and play in your top six, that is, I think, very comforting for this Flames organization. And honestly, it's a step I expect him to take this season. That's the next evolution of Connor Zary, and that is one where you feel pretty good about if he kind of locks that in, then it's just one less thing you have to kind of fill a little bit later on. And so I liked what he has done. We just need to see it consistently. On the blue line, I have liked Pahal's game so far. He's playing much more physically than I remember from him. Obviously at the end of last year, maybe attention wasn't all the way there all the time. Oops. But still, I think he's an interesting piece. He's 25 years old. I think the skating is there. You like that he is playing with a bit of an edge to him. And again, he's only just 25 years old. I know we're excited about a lot of these really young defensive prospects coming in, but he is not super far removed from being a prospect himself. And so I think that there is a real chance that I think it's more likely than not he cracks the opening day lineup. I would almost say it's a wrap at this point, but if he is going to be, again, a consistent member of this team, that physicality and the play in his own end going to have to step up, and so far, so good. This next one has the giant, I put in all capital letters, and the stars and everything around it. It's only the preseason. And only one game in the preseason. But Jonathan Huberdeau looked good. He is obviously comfortable playing with Anthony Mantha, and then the confidence that he had, just a quick little pass into the middle that sets up a scoring opportunity. And I know it eventually leads to the Kuznetsov goal, which is going to be something I screw up a lot this preseason, Kuzmenko-Kuznetsov, but Kuz scores. And again, preseason, all of those things. And I know a lot of people just want him to shoot every time he gets the puck on his stick, because he never does, and he actually has a pretty good one. But that confidence to have just that quick little pass, that wasn't there for a lot of last year, and it kind of got there toward the end. So even though it was in a preseason game, albeit a road preseason game, so against some of the better players on the Oilers, but yes, it was just a preseason game and all of that. But a nice little chip into the middle, showing that confidence, showing that vision, and that hockey IQ that we all know he has somewhere in there, is really nice to see. And so just a nice little positive sign to start things off in the preseason. I really like the idea of Pospisil between those two. I had kind of thought coming into the year, if you wanted to work Pospisil in as a center, A, it frees up some space on the wing if you wanted to include someone else on this roster, and B, this gives you now an opportunity to kind of, let's see what he can do after playing center at the Worlds. I kind of assumed it would be in a fourth line role, though, and just try to ease him into it. But then you see the lines put together, and it's him, Huberdeau, and Mantha. Well, though, like, Huberdeau and Mantha already, you kind of know they work well together. And now, like, you have Huberdeau, who is taking care of a lot of the playmaking abilities and stuff like that. It takes a little bit of the responsibility off of Pospisil. Now, defensively, I don't know if having Huberdeau on your line is necessarily an asset, but I do think that that is a very soft landing spot. If you want to integrate someone into your lineup at the center position, that's a really, really good fit. And I think the speed and power that he can play with, I mean, that fits with anyone, but it's a really good fit with Huberdeau, where he can just kind of throw it toward the net and know one of those two bigger bodies is going to be there. So there's skill and there's power on that line. I really like that one, to the point where I have it penciled in as a line on this team going into the regular season. A lot can change. We are through 3 of 8 preseason games, so a lot can change coming off of that, but I have liked what I've seen from that group so far. Also, Basha has impressed, and this is one where, if you watched him in the dub, that this isn't overly surprising. It's nice to see him be able to do it here at least a preseason NHL level. The short area quickness is what gets me. He is able to, like, there's a bit of an opening, and he is able to take full advantage of it very, very quickly. He has a pretty good sense of the ice, it looks like, and pretty good composure as well. He's 18. He's going to be back in the dub this year. That this isn't a, oh wow, could he actually make the team? I don't even think the 9-game thing really makes sense for him right now, given, again, the depth that this team has on the wing. But I have liked what I have seen from him so far, and he is a fun project to keep an eye on in the dub. The last couple are at the goalie spot. We have Dustin Wolf, who has looked sharp so far. He faced some grade A chances from real-life NHLers in that first game, and he looked really, really sharp. Again, preseason, all of those things. We know what he is capable of. We know the high levels that he can reach. He just needs to do it more often, and certainly needs to do it at the NHL level. But that first showing was, I think, pretty indicative of what he is going to see this year, where there's a lot of turnovers and there's a lot of sloppy play, but also a lot of high-level chances, and he is going to have to stop a lot of those, and I thought he came up sharp in quite a few of those. So a very good showing from Dustin Wolf in his one outing so far against the Seattle Kraken. And Cooley, again, I didn't see a ton of this game, but this is more vibes-based one. Personality for days, apparently, with this kid, and everyone loving the quotes afterward. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's a fun preseason thing. It doesn't mean he'll make the NHL roster. I would be stunned if he did. I do think that this is a guy who is going to be heading down and starting a lot of games for the Calgary Wranglers. So that's the good. This team has won 3 games, and they've outscored their opponents like 1,000,000,000. So there isn't a ton of negatives to take away, but there are some early concerns in the preseason. I actually only have a couple here. The one thing that has concerned me a little bit about this team is the play of some of the young defensemen so far. And again, I know I said the caveat at the beginning, and now I have added it 3 more times in this, but preseason, early, blah, 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 blah. But these guys have to come out and win these jobs. And Brustevich and Poirier, like, Poirier gets the goal. I thought he showed some pretty good instincts pinching in the offensive zone. The skating ability is obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, he missed a year, basically. But the skating ability is basically back to where you would expect it to be. Brustevich, we know, put up 1 billion points in the Ontario Hockey League. Very smart. The one thing that's concerned me about both of them so far, and this is the thing with young defensemen, is that they were knocked off the puck a few times, a little bit too easily. Brustevich had one where he got tripped. Like, that sucks. But there was a couple of times where they had opportunities to clear. Brustevich got beat on the wall. I believe it was Beniers who muscled him off the puck, and it led directly to a Bjorkstrand scoring opportunity. And so that's the concern you have with some of these guys, whether it be Parekh, who I thought looked fine, whether it be Brustevich, whether it be Poirier. There is some filling out that these guys need to do, right? And there is a little bit of growth physically, and to their games as well, that needs to happen. And so while there is excitement around these guys, and I think justifiably so. I'm not saying like, oh, well, Matty Beniers beat Brustevich in a puck race, or in a puck battle along the wall on September 22nd, so the kid's a bust. I'm not saying that even a little bit. I think these two guys, the next time the Flames are in the playoffs, both of these guys are going to be playing probably 30 minutes a night in those games. Like, I think very highly of these two guys, along with Parekh as well. But for right now, in the year of our hockey gods, 2024, these are guys who maybe need to fill out and bulk up a little bit so that those types of things don't happen. And so while the excitement was to maybe see if they can get onto this roster right away, I do think that maybe some cold water needs to be put on that. I would suggest both of them probably make this team at some point this year, but I do think that maybe a little bit of work down on the farm lets them kind of get some of that farm strength going on. I understand that that's not a direct comparison, but you know what I mean. Anyway, again, a reminder, if they aren't on the opening day roster, that does not mean they're exiled from the NHL for the season. Guys can grow, guys can develop, guys can improve, and more realistically, guys get hurt. There will be opportunities, and this is not a Flames team this year that is going to be so deep and so talented that there's just no opportunities for some of these guys. If you do well in the American Hockey League, odds are there's going to be a spot for you. So how do things look after a couple of games? Well, this is kind of how I have everything stacked up right now. Huberdeau, Pospisil, Mantha. I said before, I like that group a lot, and I think you kind of keep it going. And with Pospisil down the middle, it does kind of limit things for Sharangovich a little bit, if you wanted to put him at center. Now, if Pospisil turns into a guy, then you feel very comfortable about that, and Sharangovich works on the wing. It's just, this team is more deep on the wing than at center right now. The center position is absolutely the next area of priority, I think, for Craig Conroy and for the Flames organization. And so having Sharangovich not go to center and go to the wing maybe gets a little bit tricky with that. And maybe, again, I had talked before about Pospisil being a center, but being a fourth line center. That could still very much be in the cards. And honestly, it does kind of open things up just a little bit more for a couple of pieces that you can kind of play around with. But for right now, Sharangovich, Kadri, and Kuzmenko, they were a really good line together against Edmonton. And I don't think I would need, I wouldn't feel the need to break that up right now. And Zari with Backlund and Coleman, that has been a spot. I had Pelche most of the offseason, but now, again, it's one game and against whoever, like the backups in Edmonton. But I do think that there was a connection there. And if we're looking for consistency out of Zari, Backlund's a pretty good guy to put him with. So that Again, I don't mind sticking with that, at least for the start of the season. And then the fourth line of Lomberg, Schwint, and Klapka, with Rooney being my extra forward, a guy down the middle. I think Schwint has had some good energy this preseason so far, and I thought when he came in some spot moments the last little bit, he has actually looked pretty good on the fourth line at the NHL level. Lomberg, you have him in pen on your fourth line right now as the Lamborghini comes back to Calgary. And I think I didn't mention him in the early standouts, but I think Klapka's looked good so far. I think he made a couple of good plays defensively. He gets a goal as well. You know what he is, huge and going to be a physical presence. And so I think he has earned a spot on the roster right now. And so that does mean no Pelche and no Coronado to start the season. Again, I am anticipating that Mantha and Kuzmenko are not long for this world with the Calgary Flames, and so I do think that there are opportunities for those guys to go and some of these wingers to step in. There are some real opportunities down the middle, and a couple of guys have looked good so far, but that is how I have things stacked up right now. On the blue line, Uyghur Miramanov seems to be penciled in. They had Tenorti with Anderson the other night. I don't think that's going to be a thing, quite honestly. I thought Solovyov looked okay, so I have Solovyov up with Rasmus Anderson, Ball and Pahal as the last pair, and then Hanley as your extra guy, which doesn't leave room for guys like Poirier, guys like Brustevich, and all of that. Also means Tyson Barrie wouldn't be making this team, which, like, if you want him up there as as an option on as an offensive defenseman, like you want to bring him and Hanley both along, I think the math works out that you can do that, right? And so that means you have a bit more of a stay-at-home type of a fellow on your blue line if you need that, and you have a bit more of an offensive defenseman if you need that, if someone is a little bit banged up right now. Also, Gershnikov, I think, has made a impact physically and actually hockey-wise on this team so far as well. So I do think there are a few things to get excited about. Oh, and then the goalies, it's Wolf and Vladar. In terms of what's still open, I do think that there is a lot of shifting around with the pieces at the forward group. If Coronado continues to be undeniable, then maybe Sharon Govich does get a center spot, you move Pospisil down to a fourth line. It opens up a second line wing opportunity. That does mean Schwint goes down. And then there's a wing spot open for a Coronado. It might be his off wing, but you just kind of make it work. Or if Pelche becomes undeniable, you go with it that way. But that's going to do it here for this quick little preseason recap on Game Over Calgary. Again, remember, smash that subscribe button. We're looking to go live when the season gets going. And so we need a few more subscribers to do that. So help us out. Hit that subscribe button. Hit like. Share this with your friends. Even share it with like 1 or 2 people you don't like, just to throw them off a little bit. So make sure you subscribe here. Head over to thegameovernetwork.com. If you saw me doing this and thought, oh, wow, I could definitely do that. A, you're probably right. B, we have openings. And so apply now. Go to thegameovernetwork.com and hit that application button. We're starting the interview process, but that does not mean the application process is done by any stretch of the imagination. This is an amazing group of people to work with. I would recommend it. So come on down for that. Follow us on social media at GameOverNHL on X or Twitter, Twix, as I like to call it, and TikTok. Follow us on at Game Over Network on YouTube and Instagram. Follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will talk to all of you again very, very soon, and hopefully to a couple of you as colleagues down the road. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah!